Hi, everyone. Debra Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, Hamilton, ADR, North Carolina, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and of course, this wonderful MAAP community. I am so glad you're here tonight because tonight I'm going to handle some questions that have been coming in from members of the community, as well as from community members who have questions who are here tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to start. Remember, the MAAP community is a community that gets together to help plan for the care of your pets, navigate, because you have a MAAP, right? Navigate the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. So tonight, as I said, I'm going to answer some incredible questions. Rose is going to put them in the chat. We've gotten some incredible questions from community members. And also I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you if you have any additional questions to these. So one of the first community questions that I have gotten over and over again is, how should I set up my caregiver? What kind of information should I share with them? That is such an important question to answer for yourself, because you need to know how much information you need from your caregiver and how much information your caregiver needs to give to you before you feel comfortable. It's the age-old question, chicken or the egg. You're interviewing people to be caregivers for your pet, long-term or short-term. What are the questions you need to ask? What are the answers you're looking for? What would be something that you need to pursue more information about? The one thing that I hear all the time is that I get all their references, but I don't really call them. And I need to tell you from the bottom of my heart, ask for references. And if you don't ask for references, you're really having your pet go into a situation you know nothing about, because it's what I'm going to tell you. When they come to my house, they're going to be running around the house. They're going to be in a fenced-in yard. They're going to be playing with other dogs. And what actually occurs might be totally different. So you need to go see the place where you're going to place your dog, say for long-term, short-term, and you need to ask a lot of questions. And when they give you references, you need to call them and you need to ask them. You're not looking to trash anyone. You're simply looking to find that information you need to make sure that your pets are going to the place that they say they're going, that they're going to be treated in a way they say they're going to be treated. This has been a recurring question. I know that Rose is going to put questions in the chat so everybody can see what they are, of members of our community who have sent them to me, because I try to give topics every week. But this week I thought, well, why not just ask questions or answer the questions that I keep getting, because they keep recurring and recurring and recurring. Most people have gotten a lot of pushback from caregivers when they ask questions. And it's really important that if you get pushback from your caregivers, if you ask questions, you ask whether or not that caregiver is for your pet, because you need to be sure that where you're leaving your pet is safe, that it's going to be the place you want it to be. And if there's pushback from having a conversation, maybe that's not necessarily a relationship that you want to have. Now, it may be a relationship you can tenderly coax into understanding why you're asking these questions. I know when I go to the veterinarian's office, this was another question that came in. How do I have my veterinarian speak to me and not just have the vet tech? Well, it's how you place it. It's how you question that question. If you ask your veterinarian, how come I can't talk to you? Why do I have to talk to the vet tech? That's going to create a really defensive response from the veterinarian. But if you say, Dr. Smith, I so appreciate the time you spend with me, and I know your time is really valuable. I have 2 or 3 questions I'd like to ask you. What's a good time where we can either get together on a text or get together on the phone, or maybe right now to answer those questions. And if you start with gratitude and you start with appreciation, then most of the time that people are going to respect your desire for more information, respect that you want to ask questions, and not take it personally that you're asking questions. I know that Susan had scheduled a trainer to take Maggie, and we had an offline conversation about, simple questions she might ask the trainer before anything occurred. And the minute she asked questions, and Susan, hop in anytime you want, the trainer got a little defensive. And had I been there, I may have been able to diffuse it a little bit by saying, listen, I understand you have a great program. You're recommended by the vet or the trainer or whomever she was recommended to this person. I just need a little bit of peace of mind. And it's not a criticism or a difficult discussion I want to have. I simply want to make sure that I understand what's going to happen. And if we don't learn that language on diffusing, then sometimes we are going to have an issue that we create because we ask questions. So remember, when you ask questions, you want to make sure you ask them in a way that is appreciative and recognizes the person is probably being defensive or may get defensive if you ask them questions. So how do you take care of my dog, and where are they going to stay? And what are you going to do in case of an emergency? Because we talk about that all the time, but how you couch that with your caregivers is really important. So that's why I wanted to start with that question this evening before we talked about anything else, because I thought it might spur some questions with the community who's here, and also answer the burning question that had come in from another community member. So I want to say hi to everyone. So it's great to see you back, Jan. I'm so glad, Connie, you finally made it in. We're trying to keep you out, obviously, but we're thwarted.
That's all right. And I am not Rose Mace, even though she was wonderful to send me the link.
Yeah, you absolutely. And Susan, it's great to see you. And Sally, it's great to see you. So let me check in with everyone. I'm going to start with Sally. How are the girls?
The girls are great. To change your topic just briefly, I'm trying to go to New York City for lunch this weekend. I have called all 3 of my people on the list. No one's available. And now I'm going to the second group of people. So the girls are great. And I finally have someone, but keep updating those lists of who's going to take care of the dogs. And this is just for one afternoon.
Yeah.
But the girls are great.
I know. I keep getting those beautiful pictures, and the weather cooled down.
Yes. Irish setter weather again.
Yeah, it was up to 80 degrees in New York. So it was really disgusting, I must say. Susan, how is Maggie doing?
She's doing well, I have to say. I see over time that her behavior is improving, but it's still very much there. Anything involving food, moving dishes away from her center of gravity is something that can cause complete turmoil. But beyond that, I've been using the spray bottle as much as I can, and it seems to really be helping.
Great.
Yeah, I'm wanting, though, I do need to move forward, though, with a lot more, like being able to get a collar on her or a harness to get her out for walks. That's the next step.
Yeah, because that's good for you and for her.
Absolutely. I really want to be able to do that. And
so call Dan, I think, and he was the closest, right?
Yeah, he's in Richmond, and
even if he does it by remote, it would be helpful.
Yeah, anything that will help me to get more normal behavior going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's always positive input. We love positive input. Jan, welcome back. We know you've had some emotional upheaval, and probably so has Tonka. We're sorry. Jan lost her dad, so we are all very sorry. It's never easy, and it's always emotional. But how are you doing? We're sending you our love.
Oh, thank you. I'm I've been better. I'm finally, it's been back and forth, between Florida and up north with my mom. And so now I'm home. I think Tonka's been shuffled around between like so many people at this point. He was having a really hard time at one point, just being quite destructive. I think, just, a lot of different different places, different people, different periods of time, so right now, I think I'm back home for a little while. And so hopefully we'll both settle in now.
The energy around the dogs is so important. I was speaking to someone today who works with an animal communicator, which, whether you believe it or not, I tend to sort of believe it. And I'm actually going to speak to them. So community, I'm going to speak to them because Junie runs in circles, and I've had every test done on him known to man. So I need to know what's going on in his brain. He doesn't have a tumor. I went straight to, he has a tumor. He doesn't have a tumor. However, he's still running around in circles. So I actually had a client who called me who said, oh, well, I talked to so-and-so, so I'll let you know how it goes. But I am not adverse to trying almost anything with our pets, because it is really important for us to understand our pets and to pass that understanding on to other people. So let me check in with Connie, who is now with us. Thank you. How are the kids?
The kids are doing fine. Casey is under my feet in the knee hole of the desk, and Patsy is behind me under the chair. While you all were having 80-degree weather, you can see how I'm still dressed, although we are supposed to have, normal California, Southern California springtime weather for the next 3 days. And then I'm going to go back to this. So, the t-shirts will come out. That said, there's always the danger of brush fires, wildfires, and
after all that rain, it seems to be
all that rain.
Ruined.
We are absolutely holding our breath for what the summer and fall hold. And of course, we're 300% higher than normal with the Sierra snowpack. We go from 10 years of drought to now 300% of the snow, above snowpack normal range. So now the issue is flooding. So needless to say, pet owners, from horses to, chinchillas and everything in between, will be, worried about evacuating animals in case, the worst occurs. But one thing that I wanted to bring up, with all the horrible news lately of all the mass shootings, seems as though now it's not just one a day, it's multiples a day. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have seen the viral cartoon that was released after one of the big shootings. I don't know whether it was the Nashville school shooting or what it was, but it's of a dog who is facing a front door, and you can see just the back of the dog, but the dog has its ears erect and is looking very intently at the front door. And the caption reads somewhere ... after every shooting.
Yep.
So the issue becomes, no matter how, physically wonderfully healthy we are, we can be going to the grocery store like I did today. We could be going to a house of worship. We could be going to a mall. We could just be driving down a freeway. And suddenly, a bullet hits the brain and we're gone. And if an animal or animals are home, what do we do? So I think that I would like to throw that into the mix of, questions of, if there is such a god-awful emergency and you are shot, you're either wounded and taken to the hospital in some sort of whatever condition, or you're dead. Who alerts, your caregivers if you do not have identification either on your person or in your car if you are somewhere near your car. So I think that is something that unfortunately we all have to be aware of these days, regardless of where we live.
That was one of the questions that I was going to bring up, because it is so important. We talk about it all the time. I'm like maniacal about making sure you have a note on your house door, a note in your car. In case of an emergency, there's a red folder in my car. That's where all the animal, information is. There's a red folder next to my refrigerator. That's where all the animal information is. If we don't have that, it is left to just whatever can be done. Catchers catch can for your pets, whether it's a chinchilla, it's a horse, it's a parrot, who lives 100 years. I mean, you really need to make sure that these things are in place, available to be found. Because you're right, whether it's 9/11, nobody had a clue about that. Whether it's COVID, nobody had a clue about that. Whether it's now this era of shootings in various facilities, be it schools or supermarkets or banks or wherever, it's in the back of our minds. We're not going to change our lives because of it. However, it's probably in the back of all of our minds. And what can we do? Well, at the end of the day, all you can do is make sure, and I know most of us, and I'm going to check in with you in a minute, Stephanie, if you want to let us know what you've been up to, and what your pets have been up to. We just need to make sure we are organized enough. And believe me, I'm the queen of disorganization, but I can tell you, my yellow folders are everywhere. When Jim and I drove to Florida, the yellow folder was there, and we actually watched a car spin out in front of us, in front of two semis. The semi stopped. We were all going fast, but it seemed like it was in slow motion and nothing happened except that somebody spun out. Whether they hit a tire, whether they had a medical emergency, we're not quite sure. However, the gentleman was unconscious and the woman was very dazed and confused because all the curtains fell. So did they have an animal? No, they didn't, but maybe they have an animal at home. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's with a caregiver, right? Because Sally's going for lunch. God forbid something happened. Her folder is probably right there in the case of an emergency. This is what you do. And by the way, Sally, Drew will be in Tarrytown, so he's closer to you than usual over the weekend. So make sure if you need him, he's there. But you really need to have those folders available. You're absolutely right, Connie. You need to make sure that information is up to date. And as Sally always points out to us, because she has the worst luck in caregivers, 3, 4, 5, 6, you may need 7. So you need to have a caregiver, and a few of them, because you don't know who's going to be able to respond. And I'm not going anywhere. What do I need a caregiver for? Because I could go to the bank, I could go to the supermarket, I could go swimming, I could have a heart attack, I could be at the bottom of the pool, who knows? So you really need to make sure that people are aware. That is a wonderful segue, Connie, because it really is important that I know I'm like a broken record about making sure that your plans are up to date and your people are up to date. And guess what? If all of your caregivers cannot care for your pet, then what you need to do is really rely on the nosy neighbor to hold the pets till your caregivers can come. Or if you have a breeder, put the breeder down. Or if you have a rescue that you've gotten your dog with, or that you've worked with, or that's the breed specific rescue, put that information down. No plan is perfect. Shit happens. People get busy and say, oh God, I can't get there today. You just have to have redundancy. Redundancy is so incredibly important. So you're absolutely right, Connie. These are difficult times. And if you have pets, I have seen at least 20 pictures with cats, dogs, birds, horses, depending on, my husband did my Twitter the other day because he was looking for some, newsworthy information. He was looking at my phone instead of his. And he goes, the only thing on your Twitter feed are horse pictures and dog pictures. And I said, yes, because I belong to this group of horse people, and I belong to this group of dog people, and this group of parrot people. They said, so yeah, I don't belong to all the gloom and doom people. I belong to the groups of people who I might be able to help make sure that their pets are cared for. Because to me, everybody talks about the human animal bond. Everybody is doing studies about the human animal bond. I know that Jan knows that up and down because that's part of what she talks about in her programs. And she's having another one this Sunday, I think. Along with the oils. I mean, she does this because it's so important, but hardly anyone talks about that hard question of what happens when the dog's sitting on the other side of the door and you never walk through. The crystal balls are fuzzy. We really need to know what's happening, and we need to know what's happening whether the dogs are with us or not. So another question I put a bunch of the questions on the side that had come in for us. But another question I had was, what do you do with your handlers? And I know, Connie, you and I have spoken about this. But if you give your dogs to a handler, you need to have a contract. I can tell you that most of the people who call me who have issues with handlers do not have contracts. And it drives me over the edge and down the other side. If they do have contracts, it only talks about protecting the handler. And hello, this is your dog. Without your dog, the handler doesn't have work. So there has to be a mutual responsibility, transparency, and obligation. They have to know what their responsibilities are. There has to be an expectation on both sides. I just helped a group of veterinarians in a big corporation write a document that they're going to now disperse to most veterinary clinics that used to have all the responsibilities and expectations of what the vet expects of the client, period, full stop. And so I raised my hand and I said, if I read this, I would be really annoyed, because what's your responsibility to me and what can I expect from you? And unless we do it both ways. So when you get a handler or a caregiver or someone, you have to express what your responsibilities to them are as much as they're going to respect and give you the information you need for your responsibilities and expectations to them. You have to pay them. If somebody's caring for your dog, you should pay them. And if they say, no, it's okay, say, listen, I want to make sure that I can call you at any time. So let me pay you $20 or $40 if they say nothing. But there's an expectation there that I'm going to hire you to do a job. It's very important. And you really want to make sure that's in writing. Most people don't have things in writing. You really need to have your caregivers accept the responsibility and know the parameters of their care for your pet, either because you're going to lunch and they're watching the dog, and you don't have to necessarily sign it. I mean, in this day and age, texts are great because you just say, well, I texted her and I said, this is what I wanted. Better than nothing. I like things that are written down. And all of us know here that directives, when we leave our pets, are so important, right? We say, well, the dog should go out 3 or 4 times while I'm at lunch. They get lunch at 12, they get dinner at 4. I should be home by 6. If I'm not home, they get cookies at 7. And then, I will call you way before to see if you can stay. If you can't stay, let me know, so I know that that's a hard stop at 6. These are all the things that you need to do to make sure that your caregiver and you are on the same page, and that both of you have transparency, responsibility, and expectations. I can't stress enough that that's so important, because unless somebody feels as if they are as respected as you want them to respect you, it sometimes gets to be a little agitated. So Stephanie, jump in here anytime if you want to talk about your pets or you want to ask a question. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks, Debra. Yeah, just to update, since last week, there was also the call, which was posted on YouTube regarding the travel requirements for pets. And Yoda traveled with my mom and I. We took an airplane, and it was so helpful to have listened to the community call beforehand that was like directly related to us traveling. And it was also so nice to see pet rest areas at the airports for both like cats and dogs, or anyone sort of traveling with pets, that we could kind of like go to that specific place or zone and have like a little rest area that just like kind of had everything we needed.
And that's really great, Stephanie. Did they have some wipes for the dog's feet when you went out?
Yeah.
Perfect. Because you always want to, public rest areas for us and for pets aren't necessarily germ-free. We know this. But for pets, if you bring or they supply usually baby wipes, which means that it's not going to irritate them. It's not going to make them sick if they lick their feet, those kind of things. It's really important. It's so good that most large airports do have pet rest areas. Small airports, not so much. The New Bern Airport, no rest area, but then I don't think they'd ever take a dog through the New Bern Airport. But the airports that are taking pets now all have pet rest areas. They hopefully will be close to your gate. They might not be. There aren't a lot of them, but there's enough. And it really is a lifesaver because you don't have to go outside and then go back through security, which is always fun for everyone, including the pet. So it really is great. And if you're traveling with a dog or animal that can't go on your lap, oh, there's Maggie. Yay, Maggie. Hi, baby. If you're traveling with a pet that can't go in the cabin either as in a kennel. So Yoda probably went in a little Sherpa kennel, correct?
He has a small one that we were able to take aboard the cabin.
Yep. And that's perfect. I mean, I put a Sherpa under a seat with a 17-week-old Irish setter, which probably means nothing to anyone except Connie, because a 17-week Irish setter is not a Shih Tzu by any stretch of the imagination. And that's about how big a dog can be fitting in one of the Sherpas. However, it was a puppy who I had run all morning long. It was completely exhausted. I got up 2 hours before we were ready to go for our flight early in the morning. And I put it in the Sherpa, and it slept all the way to California. And then it unfolded itself from the Sherpa. When the plane landed, we unfolded the dog from the Sherpa, and he was no worse for wear. Because he's young and is foldable, but those kennels are so fabulous because it keeps the dog safe. They feel safe. I mean, people think, well, I want my dog on my lap. Well, you can put the Sherpa on your lap, but really keeping the dog in that kennel that you have already given them the opportunity to use. It's been something that's been so fun for them, i.e. you give them treats in it. You let them sleep in it. You put their favorite toy in it. You give them a Kong in it. Whatever it is that you know will make the dog say, wow, this is a good place to be. That's what you do before. So did Yoda feel comfortable in his Sherpa?
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah. It's just the time you need to take to make the dogs travel worthy, and not worthy as in, are they worthy of travel, but travel so that they don't get upset, that it's sort of like second nature. And some dogs never get, really travel delighted. But most of them, if you take the time, will be travel happy. So a few of the other questions, mostly they come in, they always ask me the legal ones. So it's, how do I legally do anything that happens? Well, as you know, the MAAP plan is the plan you bring to your attorney. So you create it here with us, either by coming on Wednesday calls and getting the little tidbits every single time, or whenever I hold a workshop you attend, and we create the MAP plan that you then take to your attorney, who will then incorporate it into your trust and estate documents. And if you don't have trust and estate documents, shame on you. You've been here long enough that you should know you should have trust and estate documents, because as Connie succinctly pointed out, crystal balls are very foggy these days and really sketchy, considering that people are, not necessarily safe going to the bank. So we really need to be a little proactive. Nobody wants to talk about it. I'm going to be fine. However, I'm telling you, I'm driving to New Jersey on Friday. It's going to be a lovely drive to Newark, New Jersey, a lovely place to visit. But I'm speaking to veterinarians in New Jersey, and I will have in my car, that my dogs are home and my husband's number, just so that everybody knows where the dogs are and how they're doing, because it's just important to, as I said, be transparent, be responsible, and really have expectations. I expect to get there and back in one piece. However, we need to make sure we have plans. So before we wrap up, I'd love to hear any questions you guys have, because I have time tonight, so I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have. Jan or Susan, or I keep seeing Rose's name, so I was going to say Rose, but it's Connie, or Stephanie. I'm so glad you traveled so well, and that the community call really helped you set that up, Stephanie. That's really great, because we want Yoda to be safe.
Yeah, it was so great. To also beforehand call the veterinarian and kind of give them a heads up that you were traveling, and they were also very much like a part of like Yoda's journey too. So
it's so important, because when you're traveling, you're going out of state. None of us think of this. When you're going out of state, you need the rabies certificate, you need the vaccination records, you need a health certificate. I know it seems silly that if you go from Connecticut to New York, it should be in the car, but it should be, God forbid, something happens, so that everybody knows, or they should be wearing their tags, which is always helpful. I know that Sally probably has everything in the car, because I'm such a maniacal maniac, and I know she's even more crazy than I am. So there you go. But like California, if you're going to a dog show in Nevada, different state, need to bring a health certificate. Janet.
There was just a post in the AKC Legislative Liaisons, I'm sure you saw it this morning, about that very subject.
And no one brings them.
And really, no one brings, I'm guilty too. I have shown in Arizona, and all of my kids, and it's Arizona, big deal, Phoenix, big whoop. But it's a different state with very different laws, and vice versa.
Yep. And if you're coming from Arizona to California, you need it too. So it's just something to think of. If you get a health certificate from your vet, because you're going out of town, I know they sometimes charge, they always charge probably, for a health certificate. It's just a good go-to. And then if you are going out of state, even if it's expired, because I think it only lasts for about 10 days, all the information is there. And you can say, listen, you can see that my dog has had rabies this day, that, it's not due for any other shot until 2024. And this is my vet, and you're more than welcome to call. But you really do need to have either the rabies tag. So you take a photocopy of it if you don't like your dog wearing a collar, or you don't want the dog to lose the rabies tag. You can take a photocopy of it, put it in your wallet, or put it in the car. Because you want to make sure you have that information, because God forbid, somebody, as I said, I think I said a week or two ago, there's somebody who walks in my neighborhood with two big Great Danes who don't like Junie. And I just want to make sure that I know. So in my phone is Junie's shot record. God forbid something happens, I have it there to make sure that if something goes wrong, We all know that he's really vaccinated and ready to go. So just, it's, food for thought. The questions from tonight are really pointed toward just making sure that you are ready for any contingency, and that the person who you're leaving your pet with, you are fully aware of how they care for animals. There was just an article on rover.com, and I'm sure there are a number of wonderful caregivers on rover.com, but one gentleman, nobody checked him out, and he was tying the dogs to a fence next to each other on a 6-foot rope instead of on, a 16-foot rope. And 2 of the dogs got into a disagreement, and one of the dogs got the worst end of the disagreement and passed away. And no one knew. Everyone said, we told him this. We told him the dog couldn't go with any other dogs. He didn't like dogs. And he said, okay, no problem. And that's not what happened. So please, please, please. I was so glad that question came in, and I'm hoping all of you recognize how important it is to ask your caregivers, especially if they're taking your dog somewhere, what situation it is that they're going to, and visit. I mean, as you know, I visited 5 vets because I wanted to see how they were going to care for my pet. I visited 3 kennels before I put Junie in a kennel 3 hours away because of the facility. And it wasn't that the people weren't lovely, and I'm sure they took really good care of the pets, but when you're taking your pet to a kennel, make sure that, we know this because we're in the dog show world, but dogs need to see out. They can't put them in a kennel where they can't see out at least one way, the front, the sides, whatever. They need to see out. And if they can't see out, you're putting your dog in a situation where they're going to go wacko. So we don't want that to happen. So just make sure you do that due diligence. It's up to you. And as Sally has demonstrated 8 ways from Sunday, she is the luckiest person to find very busy caregivers who actually have lives. We like caregivers who have no life and want to take care of our pets the way we do. That's what we'd love. But they don't necessarily exist. So you really do have to make sure. And please, if you are sitting on here saying, well, I'm with my dog all the time, I don't really need a caregiver, or if you're listening to this later, because I know no one here is really thinking that way, you really do need to make sure that you have a caregiver in case the dog is sitting behind the door and you don't come home. And that might be because of a horrible experience, or it might just be because of an unfortunate accident. No crystal balls. So make sure you have this in place. And until next week, I love all of you. Thank you so much for coming. Jan, give us a rundown on the event that's coming up. Hi, Tonka, honey.
Hello. Actually, it was last Sunday.
Oh,
So,
shoot.
yeah, we're having another one on June 25th.
Perfect.
So it's going to be a combination.
I'm so behind in everything I'm doing because I'm going to New Jersey that I don't know whether to excuse the expression shit or why my watch right now. So I am so glad that all of you are here. I'm so glad you traveled safely, Stephanie. That is so important. Well, that Yoda traveled safely too. That was more important. Sally, I hope you get to go to lunch. I'm hoping the caregiver shows up and doesn't cancel. Susan, make sure. Oh, Susan, Jan, why don't you put the information for the event in the chat? So if people want to hit it and go, if you have it handy, I'm not going to hang up yet. Susan, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to see Maggie, and I'm glad to hear she's, one step closer every day, and that's good. And we have to figure out that food thing. Don't forget to call Dan, Connie. I don't know what to say. First it's raining, then it's snowing, and now you have fire hazards, I can't believe it, or mudslides. And, everybody in California really does need to make a plan, because when the snow melts, it's going to be a little bit busy there, I think.
Well, you're living in disaster ground zero when both the IRS and the California State Franchise Tax Board, our taxing authority, have extended all our tax filing and payment dates to October 16th.
Yeah.
Because we have been declared so many times all
A state of emergency.
national disasters complete with FEMA. So, as I said, when even man doth not cometh, it's real.
Yeah. And And you know what? It just is something you have to really plan for. You can't leave it to chance. You really need to plan for it. So I'm just looking forward to seeing all of you again next week. I will be done with most of my things by next week. I was supposed to maybe go to New York to see Drew, but alas, I am going to stay home and empty boxes because if you see the blur, if you saw my office, it is a bomb site. We moved all the things out of storage into my office that need to be here. So now they have to find a home. So I'm staying home and finding a home for all of my things and staying home with Junie, who is very happy to hear that I'll be staying home and he won't be with the caregiver. He loves his caregiver, but not so much. I'm going to give Jan another minute. Do you have it yet, Jan?
I don't have it yet. As soon as I have it, I will.
All right, well, we'll put it up next week. So
Okay.
come with it next week because it's not till June, right?
June 25th.
Perfect. So we'll put it up next week and I will absolutely retweet it and share it on Facebook as we all do. Until next week, everyone, kiss your babies. So that's Tonka and that's Maggie and that's Casey and Patsy and Athena and Roxy and Yoda and Junie. I won't forget him. I'll kiss him too, though. As I'm opening this up tonight, he was in my face kissing me, and I'm like, oh my God, people are going to wonder what that red blur is in the viewfinder. But that would be Junie, and where he is now, no one knows. I guess maybe he's downstairs. Maybe he ran away. That's good. Until next week, everyone. I love you all. Take care. This is Debra Hamilton, and this is the MAAP Community Call. See you next week.